Alrighty, so we got some spin-off news from Christian Link. I'm going to read this one first. We definitely have a number of projects kind of born of Arcane. G'day guys, and welcome to some news, which is going to make a lot of Arcane fans happy. Now, I'm one of them. I'm an Arcane fan. I've never played League of Legends, and I never will. It's not my sort of game. But Arcane's story was definitely a 1 in a million, and one of the best things I've ever watched. I've never cared so much about a fictional character in my fucking life. And I've never seen characters written so well. They're more fucking human than real people. Like, dude, watching Vi's story broke my heart. It put me in depression. Like, this is a young woman born into a world where no one cared about her life, and she had to fight for everything she earned, and then to have it all ripped away from her continuously. And every time she finds a bit of happiness, it's taken away from her because and for her sister. And that shit was brutal, man. Like, watching Vi go through that fucking destroyed me. She has become my favourite character of all time. And that was a brutal series. Like, I've never cried so much in my life watching someone get absolutely fucking rolled over like Vi. But anyway, spin-offs. So, Christian Link's done a couple interviews. This spin-off interview, and obviously one in German I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And the first thing he kind of says is we definitely have a number of projects that kind of born of Arcane. We're in the process where we are just developing. Nothing is in full production yet, but we're pretty aggressively developing a few of them, particularly that we're just excited about. His next thing was we just want to tell more stories. Some of these ones are in development right now, are completely new characters from our IP. So this one right here, the ones that are in development right now is the new stuff. The stuff that precedes right after Arcane. So I believe it's going to be Dramaskia or whatever the hell it's called. I'll get to that in a second. Now, he goes, and the others are continuations of Arcane. This right here, which is going to make a lot of people that never played the game excited, that are big Arcane fans from Netflix. Now, again, obviously, there's always going to be Arcanes. It's good to hear that. I hope he kind of comes out at the end of the year, maybe if he even does that, and talks a bit more about the roadmap for these spin-offs. You don't want to know what the story is. You don't want to know that, but you kind of want to know what characters are in it. Because my favourite is Vi and Caitlyn, obviously, like a lot of people. I'm not, I like Jinx, and I was very sad what happened to her. That was a brutal story too. But my favourite are those two. Now, again, Arcane ended so openly. A couple of things I want to quote. Especially, this is like a fourth wall break. This is literally Caitlyn talking to the audience. Our story is not yet over. That's literally what she says. So obviously, it's telling the audience that, A, the season might be done, but we'll be back with new stories. That's the fourth wall break telling you that they'll be back. And Vi, pretty much, she asks Vi, are you still in this fight? Are you still in this fight, Violet? And she goes, I'm the dirt under your nails. Where you go, I go. So if Caitlyn is obviously saying that she's going to be back, obviously Vi's going to be back. That's an instant guarantee. Now, a couple things. There's still so much juicy content here in Piltover. And you've got Savika sitting on the council seat, being once the right-hand woman of the criminal that was responsible for so much pain and devastation, who fought in this war against Noxus and Victor, who's now sitting on the council. And when she sat down, the sort of higher-ups, the Pilties, looked down at her like she was a disgusting pig. And that's going to be some exciting shit. You've still got Echo, and I believe Echo's main goal now in the story will be honouring Jinx, honouring Powder, and turning the Zarnite topper levels, at least the ones, because I think there's like shit tons of levels in Zarn, and the further you go down, the worse it gets. But I think he's going to want to turn Zarn at least into the utopia that he saw in the other world. I think his main mission now is to honour the ones he's lost and focus his attention to having Piltover and Zarn unite, so Zarn can be a better place and be a lot more prosperous, a bit more of a utopia like it was in the other world. So with this, I think he's going to be working close with Savika, which is going to be rare because he was working against her for a lot of his life, and even Vi and Caitlyn, because they're going to be enforcers. And I think, having this combination of people, especially seeing Vi and Savika work together, is going to be fucking awesome, because that's one of the very first fights she had in that when she was an adult, and it almost killed her. Her fighting Savika, because she worked for Vander at one stage. She then abandoned Vander and went to Silco, and she was there for when Vander died. So there's going to be some beef between them, especially the fighting and the killing and all that sort of stuff, but they're going to have to learn to get over it and work together, because I believe 100%, we saw what happened with the end of the season with the two cities coming together. Not all of them came together, of course, but half the cities came together. Half the Pilties, half the Zarnites fought together to fight the Noxus and Victor. Right, another half of them either hid or fled, and it's a very sort of fragile peace at the moment between these cities, which could very well be tipped over to hostilities if the people that didn't join the fight have their way, because they have not fought side by side with them, so they still don't have that bond with them like they did on the battlefield, and they might still want to put Piltover and Zaan in separate places, where the people that did fight, especially Caitlyn, Vi and Savika, and again Echo, are going to want these cities to work together so life is better for both Zaan and Piltover, so both can grow. And especially Caitlyn and Vi, that's going to be like their one goal, because they both fell in love with each other, and they're both from the two different worlds, from the high lanes of the very established life, not worrying for anything, and then from the dirt and the gutters to fighting tooth and nail for everything that you need and want. And so they've come from these two very opposite worlds. They're the two sides of the one coin, pretty much. And now that their cities have fought together, and there's that fragile peace, you can bet your absolute ass they're going to want to do everything they possibly can to unite their cities together like they are. And I believe, that Arcane was the origin story for a lot of these characters. And some of them got their origin game story, but not all of them. I think this new spin-off is going to basically have Caitlyn become the sheriff, and Vi become a second-in-hand, and they're going to reform the sheriff organization. They're going to reform the enforcers, because again, they did kill Caitlyn's Vi's mother, and there needs to be some reformation. And like I said, you had Zornites with like a week's worth of training putting on enforcer armor, which is like they would never have done that in the past, but desperate times calls for desperate measures, and so you had people from all over in enforcer armor that hated enforcers fighting to protect the ones they love. And I think they're going to be reforming the organization and maybe even renaming it from the enforcers, which sounds very oppressive, to the wardens, which is a lot more of a safer name. I think they're going to open up an office in Zaan and recruit from both Zaanite and Piltover to kind of unite the cities and keep the peace and make them as one instead of two. Now, spin-offs, that's it. But I think what they're doing, the writers are quite they kick you in the guts a lot of the times, these fuckers, especially with like the characters. So I think they've led up to believing that you were going to Noxus. They did say new characters, new stories. Now hear me out. If we go to Noxus, we've already got Mel. And if they tell backstories like they did with Act 1 of Season 1, we've got Mel's mother. Right? And there's even like backstory on that in a music video where they actually went and full on like animated Bass's backstory. And that was crazy. And there's no doubt going to be a lot of that discovery of who she is when she goes to Noxus, because we got barely any of it in Arcane, but we got a bit of it, and we'll get a lot more of it in Noxus. So, not really new characters. There would definitely be a lot more of them in there, but I think what they're going to do is they're going to let you think they're going here. But I think they're going here, to Damaskia, the Noxus invasion. Now, they're going to tell a story there. I have no idea what it's going to be about. This place is very fantasy. Like I said, I'm not a League of Legends player, so I don't know the lore completely, but it's very fantasy, knights, honors, knights and honor and castles and royal families and all that sort of shit, but they hate magic, even though the princess of a royal family is a mage. So I don't know how that works, but these guys fled from the mage wars and they created this city in the forest with anti-magical material and all this sort of crap. And then, I believe, a spin-off will happen, and I think they're going to be movies, because I think they're easy to make than shows, and you can kind of, a story, you kind of want to drag it out and tell a longer story. With shows, but with movies, I think they're going to do like a saga movie, so they do 3 movies in Piltover, possibly 2, I don't know. But they need to put an essential character from Zaan into Noxus, and that's Singed. Now, Christian talked in a German interview, he said Singed is going to keep going, he's not going to stop. And again, that's the role of perfection, because he's got his daughter back, but I think what's happened to his daughter is that she's going to be like an android, completely wiped clean. She's not going to know who she is, who she was, who Singed is. And that's going to drive Singed nuts, that he's got his daughter back, but it's not actually his daughter. He's going to keep going until he perfects her, but he's not going to be able to stop, and it's going to make him go crazy. And I think, the whole story with the first movie might be very well Vi and Kate hunting him down, because he did betray Zorn and Piltover, so Kate wants his head, and he did fucking molest, and a zombified werewolf fucking Frankenstein Vi's father, and she's going to want his head on a block, definitely, because what he's done, she hates Zimmer. She wanted to stop Zimmer, he created it. And then she took her dad's corpse and molested it and turned it into some goddamn werewolf, and then gave it to, what's his name? I forgot his name. Victor. So she's going to want his head big time too. I think Vi's going to hate Singed a lot more. And they're probably going to get their hands on Oriana and save her from him, and he's going to go absolutely batshit crazy. And the end of the movie could very well be putting him in Noxus. Now, I think this will obviously be in Noxus. I don't know. But I think the next season could be very well this Noxus and Ionia, because the invasion of Ionia, from what I understand from the League lore, is that a lot of chemtech weapons were actually used against Ionia in this invasion, and, well, they can't really do that if they don't have the dude that provides it for them, and that's Singed. So this movie, the spin-off, will have him boot off to there. The next season will take place, and then it's going to be the war between Noxus and Ionia, most likely. Or issues of Mel wanting vengeance. That could be the very focus of that one, and the third season could very well be the invasion of Ionia, where Singed is making chemtech weapons for Noxus. And this is actually where I believe Jinx is. That's where she's gone, because the boat, if the boat was here on the very last scene, you'd see the islands. You'd see them. So I believe she's actually out here on the way to Ionia, because it's spiritual, very spiritual. It's a perfect place because half of Ionia wants to fight, half of it doesn't. And that's very much Jinx's mentality right there. She's torn between, protecting the one she loves, but also worried about killing him due to her erratics. So this is a perfect place for her personality to provide, but also it's a spiritual place, and she's going to want to heal. And this is a perfect place for it, and I believe she's going to fall in love with someone. She's going to become an artificer and make robotic limbs for people and provide a service and kind of heal a little bit. And then this invasion's going to kick off from Noxus with the chemtech. It's going to kill the person she's fallen in love with. She's going to go batshit crazy. She's going to slaughter him with the minigun, the rocket launcher, the monkey bombs, zimmer dashing everywhere. That story is going to basically travel, and eventually Caitlin and Vi are going to figure that out. I'm just eager to know if Caitlin will actually tell Vi that she could be alive, and if Vi will be at peace, like, okay, she's alive, hopefully she heals, and when she's ready she'll come and find me. And hopefully that matures Vi's character. But if Caitlin doesn't tell her that she could be alive and she knows, I think if Vi finds out, that will send her batshit crazy, back to her down her self-destructive way, where she picks her sister over Caitlin and dumps Caitlin on the spot, even though they're in love. But Vi's a very loyal person, and if she finds out the person she loves in this world has basically not told her the truth, she will flip the fuck out and find that as an absolute dishonouring to herself as a character, and she'll go after her sister in that self-destructive role, which could very well be a romantic interest drama thing they could tell in the story. But I really hope, for the sake of fucking happiness for Vi, that Caitlin has at least told her that she could very well be alive, and there's a hope out there that one day she heals and comes back. But I believe this is where Jinx is hiding. So, theory is, whatever's next is in Dramaskia, then they're going to be the spin-off, which will then lead Singed into Noxus. Could be then dealing with Mel and her troubles with the Noxus sort of leadership, definitely hunting the witch. And then the next season after that could very well be Ionia, the invasion of Ionia. So that's kind of what I believe. Because I do my own stories on YouTube. I'm nowhere near compared to these dudes. So I'm professional. It's just I do a Skyrim series where I turn it from the one Dragonborn doing everything to multiple different playable characters with their own stories that sort of go on their own paths, and then eventually when the world needs them, when the world needs a saviour, they follow that saviour. I don't want to spend 10 minutes talking about it, but I do my own stories. And I kind of know, as soon as you start the story, you know where it's going to end. You have to do it. You can't just arse it. You just can't fucking wing it and think it's going to work. So when I started my story, I knew it was going to start, I knew it was going to end, and I know where spin-offs are going to go for certain other characters in my story, if they live. And so this is what I believe the structure would be for these guys. They're alluding to Noxus, they'll actually surprising go to Dramaskia, and then they'll go to the spin-off, then they'll go to Noxus with Mel, and they'll go to Ionia, where eventually a young girl, we'll have to watch out for it. We'll have to watch out for it because I believe we're going to spot a young woman with, this all covered up in blacksmith gear, but with blue hair and pink eyes in the background. We've got the spotter, because she's kind of that character that sits in the background all the time, especially at V's fight and Caitlin's bath scene. She's very kind of hard to spot, but she's there. And I believe the next time we see Jinx will be here, because I think they're cooking up a good story for her. Other than that, that's just news on on the spin-offs that have been created that will continue Arcane's story and its characters, Vi, Caitlin, Echo, and Savika, and obviously where I think the plot's going to go for their stories. But that was just me doing a lot of theories, which I wasn't meant to be doing. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it if you're still here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you agree, disagree, doesn't really bloody matter. But at the end of the day, it's, especially if you're an Arcane fan, not a League fan, especially if you're a League fan, because I want to know what you guys think, because you guys have been playing this game for many years and you know a lot more than I do, and I'm just winging it, dude, when it comes to trying to think of the plot these writers would actually create. Anyway, catch you guys in the next vid.